It was at the point where I wasn't just tired, I was sick. I would fall asleep at the wheel. I would have trouble standing. Like I had a really bad rash. Like part of it was on my boob. Hey everybody, happy 2021. One of my biggest goals this year is to focus on self-care. I remember my coach, Anthony Gilardi, he's one of the coaches I trained with out in LA, love him to death. He made this joke, right? He was like, yeah, she does this thing where she doesn't sleep for days and she thinks she's still gonna be okay. And I remember being like, what? Well, damn coach, shoot.
Here's a clip from a segment I did back in 2019 for my friend Jacquelyn's YouTube channel. I'm talking about balance, or lack thereof.
I work different events around the city, so my schedule always varies. And there are some days where like I come home from, like I've literally worked from like 7 a.m. to midnight, like going between shifts. And I come home and I'm like, girl, you can't keep doing this to yourself. You just do what you can. When you have a day off, you try to maybe schedule in a nap. But to be honest, usually when you have that day off, right?
Like, and
schedule a nap. But to be honest, like usually when you have that day off, it's like, okay, but I could be using this to work on something. And she pointed out, you have to schedule in a nap. Like, what is that?
like a guilt motivation or like a...
I always want to make sure I'm holding myself accountable. It takes a lot of guts, like, you know, to like move to LA and put everything on the line for your career and your craft. So if I'm here, I want to make sure I'm really spending my time wisely.
I totally get everything that I'm saying, but looking back, I'm not acknowledging that I just have tunnel vision for work, and that's not always healthy. I'm also not acknowledging that this is an issue for me that has been decades in the making.
When I was in therapy maybe 6 years ago, my therapist was like, you need to make sure you take one day out of the week where you just take it easy and just relax. Don't put anything on your plate that day. And throughout the years, I have tried to keep that implemented in my life, but it just doesn't always work out that way. One of the main things that I did take from her was when I feel like I am stretched too thin, tell people. Say, I am tired, so I can't do this right now, or I am tired, so can we reschedule? But in hindsight, whenever I have told people I am tired, it was at the point where I wasn't just tired, I was sick. When I say sick, I mean I would fall asleep at the wheel all the time when I lived in LA, like going in the shoulder. Thank God I never got into a bad accident. For the most part, like any accident I got into, it was a hit and run. I got into a hit and run 4 times in LA, and I was only able to stop one person. And ooh, I followed them and hunted them down and made them pull over. And surprise, surprise, they didn't have insurance. But back to being sick. So I would fall asleep at the wheel. I would have trouble standing and keeping my balance. And just to be clear, I used to do gymnastics, and dancing is one of my favorite things to do in the whole world. Balance has never been an issue for me. But I would be in the grocery store struggling to walk straight, shaking to grab something, blinking a lot, like not being able to keep my eye. It just a mess, a hot mess. I would get these black and purple. It looked like I had a really bad rash or allergic reaction just all down my side. Like part of it was on my boob and it went all down my rib cage through onto my hip. Like it was bad, and it was 100% stress, lack of sleep, and just running on empty. But I want to stress, I did this because I had to. For survival jobs, prior to the pandemic, I worked in promos and events. So I would do brand ambassador work and promo modeling for different companies. For those gigs, you got to strike while the iron's hot. There are certain seasons that are busier than others. Summer months, for example, are much busier than late January. You have to make all the money you can when you can. I've vlogged about this, so I'll use this example.
I'm working a concert from 2 to 8, but I have to leave by noon because it's out in Irvine, which is 45 miles from where I live. I'm hoping in between gigs, I can squeeze in some time to prep for my shoot and listen to an edit that the engineer sent me of the audio track. Then I have to head to Huntington Beach, which is 50 miles away, to sample some morning recovery. It's a late night shift, 11 p.m. until we run out of samples. Praying to God we finish early because I am exhausted.
I'm on my way back from my second job, listening to a podcast and just, try to get some good energy, some inspiration, and stay awake while I'm driving. And I am really fighting to not fall asleep. I can't keep doing this. Like, I have to do better with taking care of myself. I don't know what the exact answer is because, like, I feel like there's so much to do and there's always more to do. But this isn't, it's not good. It's not healthy. It's, yeah.
So the next morning I shot my short film. Then I went to a tech rehearsal that afternoon. Then I went to another rehearsal that night. And then the morning after that, I had an audition.
I have the type of personality where I'm not going to let this survival job take me away from my craft and my passion and why I moved here in the first place.
Keep in mind, a lot of the cities you gotta live in to be an artist are crazy expensive. LA is expensive. New York is expensive. You gotta eat and you gotta keep a roof over your head. And investing in your craft is pretty expensive too.
I have bills that need to be paid. If I book a commercial, that might not cover it. If I book a play, that probably really ain't gonna cover it. If I book a short, that probably not gonna cover it either. So I needed to work as much as I did in order to be able to live, to stay in the city where I could pursue my craft. Even in this pandemic, I was still scheduling my day, like, you have to watch this tutorial in this 2-hour block. Then you have to work on this music software. Then you have to finish writing this script. In a pandemic, on quarantine, and I'm still working myself to the bone.
I've always had the mindset that not working or constantly trying to better yourself just isn't an option. But I've been working on accepting that bettering yourself also means taking care of yourself.
I haven't done a good job of consistently implementing ways to practice self-care. Now that the world is different, the TV film industry looks different. Broadway shut down. There aren't big events going on for me to work promos. I'm in prereqs for nursing school. That's another video for another day.
Gotta find that survival job that's pandemic proof.
A lot has changed, so I want to make the point to try to make that shift and make that change now. And prioritizing self-care is part of the journey. So I want to show you all different things that I have been trying, what's been working for me, what's not. I am not an expert by any means, clearly, but it's part of the journey I'm on. And yeah, I'm excited to share this with y'all.
Come along for my self-care journey. See y'all next time. And as always, don't forget to subscribe.